Welcome back everyone, I'm Jazz and we're working on the seats again. This is part 3, so that means there's a part 2 and a part 1 of fitting these Land Rover Discovery seats into my Renault Trafic. So if you're thinking about fitting these in there, then you need to watch them two first, obviously. Where we left on the end of episode 2, I did a bit of a schoolboy error. Made a little switch panel there to go in where the original Land Rover switches were, and the arse on the switches that I fitted is too deep to go into here, so it didn't fit. So what we're doing in this video is figuring out where we can mount these, and I also have to do the seat belts. I don't know whether we can see, but first of all I was going to make a panel. I was see where these brackets are that hold this beam at the front there. Well, there's a nut and bolt there, nut and bolt there. I was going to make a bracket that comes off this down and back up to that one, and then same on this side, so then I could build like a plinth across here, and then I could mount that into it. When I came to testing them out, the final test anyway, having them by ear isn't ideal. Like, it's doable, but it's not ideal, because say for example you want to adjust the backrest, you have to lean forward to press the button for it. So how do you know if you've got it in the right place then? You have to stop pressing and then just lean back. Oh no, that's not quite it. And then lean forward again, press it again. When the original switches were by here, you don't have to move your back. You can press the buttons and keep your back and like adjust it. Yep, that's where I want it. Perfect. And you haven't got to take your back off of the backrest. So I want them by here. So we needed to figure out a way to have enough room, enough depth in there for the switches to live without fouling on this stuff, which is part of the seat frame. So the only way to do it really is to mount a panel bigger than this recess, so it'd go across here. So that's what I'm gonna do, I think. Option number 1, I've got a sheet of die bond sign board. Obviously I'll cut this to a nice shape. I'm starting off with the best idea that I think first, because this you can bend, because that ain't straight, it ain't totally flat, which I can bend into this, and then hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, then I can try plan B, which is cut it out of wood. Okay, it sort of lines up. I've bent it slightly as well, but obviously on the side panel of the seat I got that on-off switch there, so I've had to cut a slot out for that so it slots over it, which actually helps me as well, because I really don't want to be unplugging all those connectors on well, 8 switches, 6 wires on 8 switches. Obviously I need to cut out the center of that for the arse of the switches to sit into. Well, having that slot cut out allows me to just guide the wires through without having to disconnect them all. What I think I'm going to do now is take these back off, because remember that the original module thing where the circuit board was for the for these switches. I can unscrew all that out of there and take all that out. Hopefully this will come out. It's probably got flipping sealer stuck in it now. Yeah. There we go. Right, bad news. I should have done this part first, and then I wouldn't have had to waste time cutting that, but there we are. It won't fit with that. It needs to be it needs to come out even further. You can see there, if I ram it in there, I've still got like a finger's gap.
Dripping with sexual innuendo.
I don't want to flipping crunch it in, do I? So yeah, plan B it is. I've cut that out again now, out of 18mm MDF. It's actually black MDF. I've routed the switch panel through it. If you put that there, try and do this one-handed now. So yeah, there's me holding it all in now, and it's all good. The only problem, like I said, because it's wood, if I hold that there now, you can see a gap there on that side and slightly on that side because this panel is curved. So what I think I'm gonna do, this is why I've masked this up now so I can draw on it. I'm gonna get that lined up where I want it, get that lined up with that where I want it, screw that to this, then because that is on that, I can then work out where I can screw this onto that. Okay, I've got a bit done. I've rounded all the edges off. I have made another one of these as well for the driver's side seat, which is by there. I've
Morning, Ivor. Jumping cold this morning.
drilled some holes in it to screw the switch panel to the backing plate, and I'm actually using the screws that held the original Land Rover switch panel onto the seat. I don't think this is ever going to look amazing. I really wish I had a 3D printer and knew how to use one as well, because I think that would be the best bet, is to design and make something and have it printed off so that it fits the seat panel perfectly and well, looks as best as it can. Looks like Land Rover put it there. Drilled some holes now and I'm pretty sure I got it where I want it, so let's screw it on and see what it looks like. And I actually I don't know whether you call it countersunk or not, but I've embedded the screws further in so that you don't see the heads of these ones. I don't think it looks too bad. It could be better.
You can say that again, pal.
If I routed in the thickness of this carbon fibre plate into that wood so that sunk into that would look loads better, because you wouldn't see the edge of this carbon fibre. And also I think if I painted that wood like a textured paint so that it kind of matched this, that would also look good. I think that'll do for now though. I can improve on it at a later date. At least now the seat is usable, so yeah. What I am gonna do now though, I've snipped all my cable ties off here because I cable tied them all to be at the front. So what I'm gonna do now is cable tie them onto the bracket that this holds onto, so that they kind of come out of this, come off the back of these switches, do a 90 degree, come that way, and then a 90 degree that way. And there we go, it's all cable tied to that bracket there. So yeah, it comes out of the switches, big bundle of wires, cable tied to that bracket on the right hand side, the very far right there, and then I got it cable tied to the underneath of the seat there. Then whilst I'm in the process of doing the driver's side, I forgot to show you one thing I did on the passenger side, and this lug here it actually fits into this lug here on the seat panel, which is actually broken. I cut it off the other side because obviously roundabout by here is where all the wires are, and I got them going this way and cable tied to that piece. So you could probably put it around it, but just to have an extra bit of clearance I cut it off, because you got that to hold it onto, and that, and that, and then clipped at the back and screwed at the back as well. So yeah, I don't think we need that one, and it's better to have extra clearance for the wires. So now that the switch panels are sorted, the last thing I gotta do to sign these seats off, and there will be no more parts to this series of videos, is the seatbelts, because obviously we need them to be safe and to actually pass the MOT. So at the moment, there's a wire there. They've still got the original Land Rover ones. So first step, all they're held on with is this big Torx bolt by here. So I'm going to undo that. That should then come off, and then hopefully we can then bolt this one on, and we can plug that plug into the original Renault plug down by here on the floor, and then we won't have no lights appearing on the dashboard. Now if these seats weren't swivels, then I could just slap this straight on and done and dusted, job done. But I do have swivels, so we can't just, well, we can bolt them on, and that's that, but we can't plug the wire in, because if we just plug it in as it should be, then when I go to turn the seats around, it'll probably pull the wires out or just prevent me from turning the seat, because the wiring won't be long enough. So what I'm gonna have to do is cut them wires round about by there. We'll cut these ones rather than the ones on the van, because the ones on the van have got 6 wires going into that plug for some reason, whereas this has only got 2. So we'll cut these. I'll probably plug that in then, once it's cut off, into the bit underneath the seat, see where it comes to, then bolt this on, see where that comes to, and then from that then I should be able to work out how much extra wire I then need to attach to both pieces to make it long enough so I can turn the seat around. Right, so first thing we gotta do is take this cover off and undo that big bolt there so we can take the seatbelt receiver off. That's held on with 2 Torx bolts, 2 different size ones as well, T25 and T30. Receiver's off, but don't chuck it away. First of all, we need to get the bolt out of it, and it's secured in with this like circlip kind of washer mixture thing. So first of all, we need to pry it forward a bit so it gets onto the threads, and then you can hold on to it and unwind the bolt. So we don't need the bolt anymore, and we don't need that anymore either, but we do need this still. So next thing we need to do is on the Renault Trafic receiver. So first thing we need to do is cut this plug off, but don't chop it off like down there. Leave a bit of wire on it, so we'll probably chop it off by here. Gonna take this clip off as well, and once I've chopped it, I'm gonna take all this sheath off as well. Now I don't actually know which wires do what on this. The brown and the blue there are the same as on the passenger side, so theoretically you just need them, but I don't know what this pink and grey one does, so I'm not gonna not do it just in case we do need it. So basically next step is to trim back this black insulation so you can get to the separate wires. Take the insulation off the ends of them as well once you've got the black stuff off, and So we've got 4 wires there with bare ends on them. Now we need to do the same thing, but for the other side of the wires on the receiver where we cut them. So that's all 4, well 8 wires actually, all with bare ends now. So we can put this back down for a moment. Now you don't have to use Wago connectors, but ideally some kind of connector that you can take apart just in case you need to dismantle something, like take the seat off of the base or whatever. I'm going to use Wagos because they're just flick of a switch and they're disconnected. There's many other ways of doing it as well, as long as it's as long as you can disconnect them. Because there's 4 wires on this, we need 4 Wago connectors, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but there we are. So connect 1 onto each one. So that's them 2 done. This one. There we go. 4 Wagos on our wires now. So now we can cut some extension cables and pop them into here. So just cut 4 wires, about 30 centimeters. So obviously now we need to bare the ends on all 8 ends. And then next, put the ends of them into the Wago connectors with them and try and match them up with their nearest colour. So this first one is brown that we gotta connect up, so I'm gonna connect that up to a black, and then the blue is a primary colour, so I'm gonna connect that up to another primary colour, a red. On this side we got grey, closest to that is a black, and then we got pink, so we connect a red up to that one. There we go. There's our extensions to our plug. Once we've done that, we can now put some connectors on the ends of these and the ones on the receiver. Again, you can put whatever you want on them. I'm going to put spade connectors. You could put solder and heat shrink. Yeah, whatever you want on them, because they won't have to be disconnected again. That's all 8 wires now with connectors on, but we can't connect them up yet. That will be last. Now we need to bolt the receiver onto the seat. Before I started the passenger side one, I thought this was just going to bolt straight on. It doesn't. So yeah, there's a little bit of work to get this done in order for it to be fitted and also to work correctly. You can see there where it used to bolt onto the Renault seat that we got this lug here, and that used to slot into a hole on the seat base, the original seat base. Obviously now that we got Land Rover seats, that don't slot into the Land Rover seat. The Land Rover receiver also has one by there, but yeah, that's in a totally different place. If you imagine that's on the side of the seat, then this lug is at the bottom, whereas this one, put it the same, that one is at the top. So what we need to do, we need to utilize this part of the Land Rover receiver and fit it onto this one, so that then this one locks into the Land Rover seat. And the way I did that on the passenger side is used this lug on the Renault receiver to lock into this receiver base, so that then the lug on this receiver base can slot into the seat. A little bit complicated, more than what I wanted, but it did work in the end. So the first thing we need to do because that is in the way of it bolting onto the seat, we need to hammer this over so it's flat with this part. Now, be careful. For starters, this is an explosive device. I'm not sure what it would look like if you set it off. But I didn't really want my hands on it when I'm working on it. And obviously, be mindful where you're hitting it with the hammer. You don't want to go smashing something that you need. So I just got it in the vise at the moment. There's probably going to be people aghast with this.
What are you doing?
But hey ho. So that's what it looks like once we've hammered it over. Instead of it sticking out this way, it's now flat with this part. And then what we want is we want to use this part and have it on there like that. So we need to cut a slot out of this piece for it to slot around this piece that we folded over. Now if you hold the Land Rover receiver up at the same angle as the Renault receiver and then line the holes up, see where I've drawn around it with the blue pen, that's what we need to cut out. And then where I've marked this piece of tape across here, that's where we need to cut off. So start off with the bit you've got to notch out, so you've got something to hold on to. Obviously don't go picking it up straight away when it's hot, but now that we've cut that will then slot into this Renault receiver like that. So the bit that we hammered over slots into the bit that we've cut out on the Land Rover piece, and we've cut it off by there so that it doesn't protrude any higher up than the Renault tensioner. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Now the bolt that came on the Land Rover seats, can't use that anymore because it's too short. Now that we've got the added thickness of the Renault tensioner, which is much thicker than the Land Rover seatbelt, plus we've got the thickness of the Land Rover seatbelt hole as well, so we need a longer bolt. If I hold that one up there, you can see how much longer roughly that we need. I haven't got a clue what size this bolt is. M10 is it? M12? I don't flip it now. But I put a washer on it as well because the head of that one's quite big. It's bigger than this one I've got. So just put that through there now and bolt it on like that. Like so. So there you can see, if my camera will focus, the bolt sticking through. And yeah, there it is, bolted on. Also there you can see the slot in front of the bolt there, the lug sticking into the slot. And yeah, it lines up relatively level with the seat runners as you want it, and then the receiver is pointing up where you want it as well. Now, one little thing I've also done, just this one cable was cable tied to the end of the tensioner. I've snipped that because it did send it back that way then, so we don't want it like that. So I'm gonna put a new cable tie on the pair of them and cable tie it to the end of the tensioner, and then they're gonna go through here. And there they are, cable tied to the end. I've also routed them through here, and by here is a bracket hanging off of the seat rail, and there's a hole in the middle of it by there. So I've cable tied it by there so that they can't flop around anywhere. And I've also put the side of the seat back on as well with the 2 bolts. So that is all done and dusted now. Almost there now, so grab the plug that we cut off and the 4 connectors we got feed them through one of the holes that are in the bottom of the swivel. So there they are, poking through the hole in the swivel. So just moving them there so you can see. So the next thing we gotta do is connect them up to the wires coming off the seatbelt receiver. So we got the one there and the other one there, and we need to connect these 4 wires onto them. But a little bit tricky. We need to make sure we're connecting the right ones up to the right ones. So there's 4 different colours: brown, blue, pink and grey. Now it's easy enough. Just start off with where they are on the Wago connectors and figure out which wire, which colour you want to do first. Grab it, trace it to where it joins onto either a red or black cable end, and then just pull it, and then you'll see the connector disappear down to where the hole is, and then you know which one you're tugging on. Grab it and connect it up to the right one on the black cable. Then do the next one that completes that pair, and then once you've done that one, you know the next 2 you've only got a red and a black to do, and because we joined them up to similar colours before, you know which one goes which. Hopefully that makes sense. Next thing I'm going to do is just put some insulation tape over these so that these sheaths can't come off, and I'll probably either insulation tape them together or cable tie them together just to make it a bit neater. And then the last thing to do is connect the plug up, and there we go. My plug has incurred a little bit of damage, but it still works. So yeah, so that's it, finished, connected. The only thing I did extra on the other side, on the passenger seat, I did cable tie these cables up somewhere on a hole up to the seat base. Yeah, something like that, up like there. Once you've done that, give it a test doing the swivel. But yeah, that's how you connect the seatbelt. I did try that part of the seatbelt into the Land Rover receiver, and it fitted, it worked. But the Land Rover receiver didn't have the tensioner on it, so when you have a crash, that thing explodes and it winds the seatbelt in and pulls it in, so you go tighter. Don't know why the Land Rover one doesn't have that. So because of that, even though I've hammered the lug over, I still think that's safer than not having the tensioner there. And plus we got the Renault wiring plugged into the Renault plug, so that then we don't get any lights on the dashboard. So that's the way I done it. Don't have to follow it. If you think you got a better way of doing it, then I'm all ears. Stick it in the comments. So one final thing we got to do is attach the seatbelt to the seat. So first of all, take the side cover off, and then you'll be able to see the hole, the thread there for the bolt to go into to attach this on. Unfortunately, the Renault Trafic bottom of the seatbelt has 2 lugs on it, and the Land Rover one must have only had 1, and yeah, these don't line up with the slot that's in it. So I think what I'm going to do is just hammer these flat and then bolt it on. I've hammered them so that they're flat now, so that they can't poke into this part. Managed to find a correct bolt, and this little bolt, actually there's a slot in the Renault Trafic bottom of the seatbelt thing that lines up perfectly with a hole on this part of the bracket of the Land Rover seat. So I've put this little nut and bolt through there to act like one of these lugs. I've just tightened this up now, so that's finished. So now all I gotta do is put the cover back on. So yeah, that's part 1, 2 and 3 all complete on how I fitted Land Rover Discovery seats in my Renault Trafic. Really pleased with them. They turned out really well. Not gonna lie, it took longer than I expected, but I don't think it was too much of a potch. As after I worked everything out along the way, yeah, there wasn't anything that really stopped me from getting on with it. Like I've said all along, if you don't plan on running swivels, then these seats will line up perfectly with Renault Trafic and Vivaro seat bases. You just have to drill a few extra holes for them to bolt into, so that's, yeah, much easier job, and the wiring will be much easier as well if you do that, because you won't have as much wire to allow for the seat to turn around. And the seat belt, you won't have to bugger about with any of that either. One thing I noticed, I've never had swivels in a van before, because obviously this is my first van. With the seat belt being attached to the side of the seat, obviously when you turn the seat around, it pulls the seat belt around it. So I've looped it around the back. Is that what everyone does? Or I know some vehicles, the seat belt, like my Skyline, is attached to the sill. So if my Skyline had swivels, it wouldn't pull this out with it. But I'm not sure what other vans have. Let me know in the comments if you have to do that as well and loop it around the back of your seat so you're not sitting on it. One thing I noticed that I fucked up on is that when you're pushing the buttons, you really want the side of the button you're pushing to be in the same direction that you want the seat to go. So say if I push this one now, which should be the seat going back and forth, yeah, so for me to go backwards now, I should be pushing on the back of the switch, but if I do that, it comes forward. So a few of them, I think it's 2 on this one and 1 on that one, I got the switches the wrong way round. Both solutions involve taking the things that I've made here on the side of the seat off, unscrewing them. You can either get the red and the black wires on the switches and reverse them, unplug them and putting them the other way around, or just take the switch out of the switch surround, take it out and turn it the other way. But after all that, I can't be asked at the moment, so it's just going to be on one of my long-term to-do lists. If you've got any questions at all, pop them in the comments. Happy to answer any of the questions you have to do with part 1 and part 2 as well. If you think that you've got an idea on how to do something better with it, yeah, all ears, pop them in the comments as well. If after watching these 3 parts you're thinking, yeah, I fancy some Land Rover Discovery seats for my van, and by watching the videos it has enabled you to do it, then consider buying me a coffee to say thank you. Link for that is in the description. You don't have to though, don't worry about it. Any parts or tools I've used in this video, I'll pop the links for them in the description. Also, I'd just like to add, if you're watching this and you haven't got a Renault Trafic, Vivaro or Primastar, these 3 parts of the video should still help you with fitting Land Rover Discovery seats in your van. And also, if you're fitting different seats, if they're still electric, got all different types of motors on them, then again, these videos still should help you in some way or another. And also, this part and part 2 are right next to each other, but part 1 you'll have to search for. It's about 6 months ago. I'll put the links for them parts as well in the description. And I don't think there's anything else to say. I'm glad they're done now, so we'll be getting on something different in the next video. So click on the subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.